Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at the new Marvel Legends Walgreens exclusive Jigsaw action figure. There's a bit of shipping wear on the box, but it's not such a big deal because I'm going to get this open. But before we open it, let's have a quick look at the box. Up front we have the Super Villains branding. At the top, it's just a blank black box. Down to the bottom, there is some product information. And down to the side, there's the artwork of Jigsaw clenching his fists, but clearly this is reflected because his pocket square should be on his left instead of his right. Moving on to the back of the box, there's the full version of that Jigsaw artwork. This time it's the right way around. He's standing in a deserted alley, description of the character over here on the right, and more product information on the bottom. And we move to that last side, same snippet of artwork. So let's go ahead and get this guy open. Out of the box, of course, we have the figure on the plastic tray. He comes with a big machete, a baseball bat, two smaller knives, a sawn-off shotgun, two shooting blast effects, and two smoked effects. First up, taking a look at his accessories, he comes with these two knives. These two knives are reused from previous releases like Deadpool and Paladin. These knives are cast in a black plastic for the handle and given silver paint for the blades. The black plastic on the handle feels a little tacky to touch, so I'm not sure if that's intentional or the plastic has already started to degrade. And with the two knives, of course, Jigsaw can dual wield both of these knives in his hands. And as for the rest of his weapons, they are also all reused from the Punisher Bike Deluxe Pack. The machete is cast in a black plastic with silver paint for the blade, as well as the couple of rivets on the handle. The baseball bat is also similarly cast in a black plastic with silver paint for the rest of the bat as well as the bottom of the handle. And naturally, he holds both the machete as well as the baseball bat just fine. He's also articulated enough to hold a baseball bat in both hands. And finally, the shotgun is cast in a silver plastic with black paint for the pump as well as the pistol grip. He can only really hold that shotgun in his right hand because he's got a pistol grip over there. The left hand over here doesn't actually have that separated index finger. But once again, no big deal. I simply use a hobby knife to separate that index finger on his left hand. So now he can hold guns in both his left and right hands. And finally, he has these two types of effect parts that connect to his shotgun. These effect parts are reused from the Black Widow in her white suit. The shooting blast effects are cast in a translucent orange plastic and catch the light well. The smoke effects are now cast in a slightly darker gray translucent plastic as compared to the more white effects from the Black Widow figure. The blast effects plug into the two separate nozzles on that shotgun. However, they do interfere with each other and they end up looking a little strange when plugged in, kind of shooting in separate directions. I think these blast effects are more suitable for pistols. For a shotgun, you would expect a larger blast effect because of the spray of the shotgun pellets. So these are not accurate for a shotgun blast. And it does look rather accurate to have the gun smoking from both barrels at the same time. So it turns out that every accessory that comes with Jigsaw is reused from a previous Marvel Legends release. I don't really mind that because he comes with a lot of accessories that are appropriate for a mob character. So even though he comes with a lot of weapons, I still do wish that he had some interchangeable fists to go along. Moving on to the sculpt of the main body itself, it is an interesting mix of reused and new parts. The figure's torso down to his legs are reused from the MCU Nick Fury body mold that we see on Deadpool over here from the 2-pack with Hitmonkey. His bulkier arms are reused from Hammerhead over here, which is on the MCU Happy Hogan body mold, so he ends up having a larger body with bulkier arms that are more proportional to a mobster. The new parts on this figure are his head sculpt, his collar, the jacket and vest overlay on the torso, and finally his hands. You can also see that most of the plastic used for his suit is a yellowish off-white as compared to the pure plain white on Deadpool. Case in point about his hands, you can see that they are more proportional to his bulky arm as compared to Hammerhead's teeny tiny hands, which are reused from the regular Marvel Legends suited body. Zooming into his head sculpt, and I can say that it is the best part of this figure. Hasbro has really captured that disfigured and deranged expression on his face. They have used that digital dot matrix printing technique. You can see every single staple and stitch on his scar is applied with laser precision, with none of that paint bleeding out of his scar at all. Besides the trademark scars on his face, there are also really clearly visible lines like the wrinkles in his forehead as well as the sides of his cheek. And when you look into his eyes, you can see the whites, blues, and reds all sharply applied. The red paint around his eyes definitely brings out the freakish nature of this figure. And then we come down to his grotesque mouth. Teeth are all sharply painted in white, and the red also doesn't bleed out of the gums as well as his lips. So overall, this head sculpt is hideous, but gloriously hideous. And now we move on to the sculpt of his hair. It's slicked backwards with a few messy strands down the front. The hair is cast in a almost dark gray plastic. There's also a little bit of paint work, just to show some scars where he's lost some of that hair. You can also see that on the right side of his head. And then we look at his metallic color that's cast in a silvery plastic. There's no paint on this color, but there are some details like the rims at the top and the bottom of the collar, as well as some rivets on down the side. And now we move on to his torso. His torso is cast in a black plastic, matched with a black tie. Interestingly, you can also have a look at his neck below that metal collar, also painted in that same flesh tone paint that matches the plastic on his face. And moving on to his jacket and vest, it is all cast in an off-white yellowish plastic, black paint for the buttons as well as the pocket square. He's got bulkier arms with some wrinkling down the sides of those sleeves, and at the back on the bottom of his sleeve also some black paint for those buttons. His hands are cast in a flesh tone plastic, similarly sharp detail with some of that veins coming out, and you can even spot that he's got fingernails sculpted on as well. In a strange way, that black tie also kind of peeks out from behind his vest, so that's a small detail and could just get a little distracting. On the back of his jacket, again more sculpting to show the seams as well as the wrinkles. And moving down to his legs, similarly sharply sculpted with the wrinkling in the pant leg as well as the seams. And at the bottom, we have black Oxford shoes. They've got a smooth sculpt with a couple of details like the laces and the seam on the front of the shoe. And here's a quick side-by-side with the previous Toybiz Jigsaw that we got from the Face Off 2-pack with Punisher. This is only the second version of Jigsaw in 6-inch scale. Just comparing those head sculpts, and you can see how much action figure sculpting technology has improved over the years. The Toybiz Jigsaw does have a more comical looking head sculpt, with his scarring look more like exaggerated wrinkles. However, I really do like his warped take on the Punisher outfit, and I hope that one day we'll get a Hasbro Jigsaw in a modern take on that distorted Punisher outfit. For articulation, his head is on a ball hinge, so it spins 360, with the collar kind of getting in the way sometimes. Even though the collar is supposed to protect his neck, you can still get some sideways tilting. He can also look down pretty well as up just that little bit. Swivel hinge at the shoulders, so they go 360 with a soft detented feel, and they go out that far. Swivel at the bicep for 360 spin. Double jointed elbows for pretty good range beyond 90 degrees. Swivel at the wrist for 360 spin, and he's also given that hinge for down as well as up movement. He's also got a mid-torso hinge, but because of the way that the vest and the jacket overlay is kind of stiff, you can't really get much range out of that mid-torso hinge. And also just that little bit backwards. He's got a waist swivel, so that goes 360 as well. Ball joints at the hips, so they come out but not that far. No problems forward, but the backward range is hindered by the back of that jacket. Upper thigh swivel for 360 spin. Double jointed knees, very good range. There's a swivel just above the ankle that's hidden just underneath that pant leg, so that swivels 360. And he's also got ankle tilt upwards as well as downwards. And finally, ankle pivot outwards as well as inwards. He's on Marvel Legends standard articulation, and despite the lack of range in that mid-torso hinge hindered by that jacket piece, you should still be able to get him into a couple of fun poses. The hips do feel a little gummy, so that could be a little challenging to pose in wider stances. Now for some head swaps, and here he is on the Punisher body. I do think this body is a little too bulky for Jigsaw. The size of the head is still proportional to the body size, however it does sit a little high on that neck. Here's what that head looks like on a regular size Marvel Legends suited body. I think that head looks a little too big for the body, and the body is also too skinny and scrawny for this head sculpt. And finally, for some hand swap options, he can borrow that pointing right hand as well as the left fist from the J. Jonah Jameson retro carded action figure that, even though was on the smaller regular Marvel Legends size suited body, he came with larger hands. Size-wise, Jigsaw stands at about 6¼ inches, and that's about 16 centimeters. For size comparisons, of course, I will need to show him with all the Hasbro Punishers that I have, and he's shorter than every single one of them, which is appropriate. Here he is with a bunch of mobsters like Tombstone, Kingpin, and Hammerhead. Here he is with two different molds of Spider-Man, with Daredevil and Black Widow, and with Baron Zemo and a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Here he is with some G.I. Joe Classified series, and some Star Wars Black series. Jigsaw has a lot of part reuse and little paint on his body, but the new parts and plenty weapons more than make up for it. The head sculpt is extremely hideous and surely on another level of detail and paint that Hasbro has achieved in 6-inch scale. I definitely recommend you to get him if you see him in stores. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe to my channel for more toy reviews. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.